everybody. So carrying on from the last lesson where we looked at creating attributes using the attribute create node, I now want to quickly show you how to do this in VEX, and this can be as simple or as complicated as the attribute is and how it needs to be programmed, but let's just make some really basic ones so you get the idea. So first of all, I need to go into something called a wrangle, and this will allow me just to type code. So let me go into, I think in this case we'll go with a point wrangle, okay, and I'm going to connect that. This is displayed in red. It probably isn't on yours. I've custom made this so that it would always display in red when I'm opening a wrangle, but in yours it'll probably just be the regular kind of light grey color. So anyway, as you can see, I don't have a lot of stuff here. All I've got is a little box where I can type information, and that's because VEX is a special type of code which is used inside of Houdini in order to create anything you want, create most of the animations and stuff. So if you've ever learned things like Python before, maybe you've learned C++, something like that. If you learn C++, then you probably find VEX very easy actually. Other languages will be somewhat helpful, but I'm just going to show you some really basic stuff here. I'm not a big VEX user. I've done a couple of courses on VEX, but I wouldn't say by any standard I really know what I'm doing. But I'm going to just give you the basic bits of which I do know right here. So here I'm going to create, I want to create the same attributes that I had in the previous lesson, so the color and the normal, and we should get the same results. We should have the same results like this, right? So let's try that first of all. It's really simple. Now to create an attribute, all I need to do is use this @ sign, okay? And in this case I'm going to go with CD. So @CD just means the color attribute. It's also a vector. So in order to instruct this attribute that it's a vector, it will probably by default will select a vector because it's already a system attribute. But to be sure, I'm going to put a V before it. If it's a float, I'll use an F, and if it's an integer, I'll use an I, and there's a whole bunch of different options you have there, but let's go with V for a vector, which means it has, of course, 3 values. And then I just put equal, and then I'm going to set those values, and really simple, I just type set, I'm going to open bracket, and I'm going to put in what they are. So my red value I think was 0.2, my green value was 1, my blue value was 1, close the brackets, and I must always end each line with a semicolon. Semicolon is a bit like if you're writing something and you just put a full stop or period if you're American. But yeah, that's it. So it's basically like putting a full stop at the end, but in coding language they always use a semicolon. And then to make that work, I'm just going to hold down on my Mac, I'm using my command key and I'm hitting return. I guess on a PC it's probably control and return or control and enter, and then you'll see the thing pop up and you can see, whoa, I've got the color that I wanted, and I can change the color here to something else. I might make this slightly different, right? But I'm going to just stick with the same that I had before with the attribute create node. That's my first one made. So my normal, well, it's also a vector, so I know it's a vector. I know that I need to use n for this. Remember, if we go back here, I've got this n here, and I've got my value is 0, 1, 0, 0. But I'm only a vector, so I only need to use the first 3. Let's go back here. Now it's spitting at me saying there's an error. The reason is that this line is unfinished. If I remove this again, it's all fine again. So let's create the vector, the capital N for normal equals, again, set. And if you remember, it was 0, 1, 0, close the bracket, semicolon. We're done. All right. And we can see if we look down in the geometry spreadsheet, that's exactly what we have, colors and normals. I can move this to primitive if I want. There's the primitive, and I go into my primitive menu on the geometry spreadsheet, and I see that I've transferred them, the color and the normal, into that space. I want to go back to points though. That's where I'm really working at the moment. And so now these two will match. Okay, it's kind of cool, right? And that was, I think, it's probably about as basic as it comes, but yeah, hopefully that was a bit useful. I'm sure you might have some questions about that, so leave them below, of course. And anything you want to know, just write to me and I'll try my best to answer it. You guys have a great day, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye bye.